Welcome back. Today I have 10 tips for you on how to use Final Cut Pro better. And accompanying this video, if you want an in-depth, deep dive, I have just released an entire video of me going through an edit and using the tips that I'm about to give you in real time in a practical situation where I edit together one of my videos from this channel. It really goes into different techniques, and for me, that's really interesting. I love watching videos of other editors edit. And so if you want to get into that, that video is going to be right here. You can check it out. And let's get into these tips because I've got 10 things for you that are going to make you a better video editor. Number one is all about organization. You have to stay organized, and that means getting organized even before you've opened Final Cut Pro. For me, what I have is I have a folder template in Finder that every time I have a new project, I duplicate that folder structure, rename it, and I have everything in there that I need for all of my assets, any documents, my Final Cut library, my cache. Everything has a different folder. I love to organize things in folders, but it helps find things when I need to find them. I don't like to just throw everything together into one folder. So stay organized in Finder. Number two, setting yourself up for success with settings. All right, there are three main settings that you need to think about, okay? When you first open Final Cut Pro, there are some settings that you need to configure in Final Cut so that Final Cut works the way you want it to. Now, of course, these are settings that you can adjust over time, but there are things like how you want the UI to look and feel and operate. There are things relevant to how you edit and what happens when you do that, like background rendering. Do you want that turned on or not? Maybe your machine is super fast and you don't feel like you need it. Or maybe it's going to be really helpful for you. Maybe you don't have a huge external drive you're editing on, and so generating that extra media from the background rendering might not be something you can do. But look into Final Cut settings and get them the way that you want them to be. Second, when you create a new library for the first time, you need to do the media management settings correctly so that your footage goes to where you want it to go and stays there, okay? So there's, in the library settings, there's the modify the storage settings that you can do, and that will allow you to customize where your media lives. And the third setting are the project settings. So when you create a project, it's important that you know two main things. One, what kind of footage are you working with? And two, how are you delivering? What, if you're editing for yourself, like just ask yourself the question, what format am I delivering in? What aspect ratio? What resolution? What frame rate? So these are things you need to know, and generally it's helpful to know those things before you've shot anything if you're the one shooting. Now, if you're not the one shooting, you're being handed footage, you need to evaluate that footage to see what you're working with. Again, same questions. What resolution am I working with? What aspect ratio? What frame rate? What codec? All of these things affect how you're going to work with the footage and the final product that you're going to put out. Tip number three, crazy for keywords, because keywords in Final Cut are a major feature, and you need to, if you use them, they will be really helpful to you. So there is a setting in Final Cut where you can tell on media import, you can tell Final Cut to create keyword collections from the folder structure that you have in Finder. And this is one of the reasons I like to just drag and drop my footage into Final Cut. I mean, I like to do that anyway, but especially because if I drag the folder with all my assets in, or the folders, it will create keyword collections for all of those folders that I had in Finder. And now I've got a really nice starting point for keyword collections. And then if I need more, I can add more whenever I want to. But they help keep the media organized, especially when you're dealing with a lot of media, and especially if you're dealing with media that you didn't shoot. You don't have sort of a built-in a layout of what that footage is. And so using the keyword collections will help keep you even more organized. Tip number 4, keyboard shortcuts sure cut out a lot of wasted time. Keyboard shortcuts are something that you need to be using. If you're not using keyboard shortcuts right now for like everything that you do on your computer, I would encourage you to start learning some keyboard shortcuts. If you don't have to pick your hand up off the keyboard, or if you don't have to move your mouse and click on something or drag something, and you can just press a keyboard shortcut, you will work faster. And when you are editing, speed is really important because there are usually deadlines and you need to get through stuff. Okay, Tim from the future here. What I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna make a whole nother video about my favorite keyboard shortcuts and how I use them. So stay tuned for that coming soon. Until then, back to my top 10 tips on how to be faster in Final Cut Pro. Our 5th tip is versioning projects, and I always version projects when I create them, and when I deliver a version for review. If comments come back on that version, the first thing I do before I make any edits is I come in and I duplicate the project, and I've already named the first version V1, and so now I'm just going to name the second version V2. And then I'm going to double click on that version to open it. Final Cut does not open the new project you created by default. You have to double click on it to make sure you're still not in the old one. But now you have a V2 that you can edit from. And that way, when somebody maybe changes their mind and says, you know what you had in V1 was better, let's use that. Now you can just go back to V1 and you still have your original version that you delivered the first time around. Tip number 6 is create compound clips. And I showed you the shortcut for creating compound clips, but the reason I create compound clips is this. So for example, in this video right here, I have one long clip, okay, of me talking, all right? But I'm using this clip throughout the timeline, and this timeline is an hour and 40 minutes long. So it's a super long timeline, and I'm talking the whole time. But you can see how many cuts I've made just to trim out stuff, things where I messed up, or to compress time a little bit, or I did some speed ramping. But what happens if I want to change something in all the clips? For example, the audio, or the color, or the framing. I now would have to change every single one of these separately. But if it's a compound clip, all I need to do is click into it, and now I have a master clip here that I can change, and it will change everything. So let's zoom in ungodly close on my face, and then roll back here. And now you will see that all the versions of Tim 1 are changed. Tim 2 is not changed because that's a different compound clip. But let's say we go in here, and this one we want to zoom way out. And we go here, we're going to see, look, all of these I'm now zoomed out super far on. So that is the biggest, that is why I recommend using compound clips to edit. And then you cut up your compound clip, and then if you need to make a change, you just go into it, and you have one file inside that you need to change. My next tip is that secondary storylines are super. Command G, okay, that keeps your media in your secondary storyline organized and together. Sometimes you want it to be separate, but man, most of the time I want mine to be together, or at least little vignettes or segments. I want them to stay together with each other. Tip number 8, markers make magic. I love using markers. Markers are like a little to-do list. There are 3 different kinds of markers in Final Cut. You just have a regular marker, a to-do marker, and a chapter marker. A lot of the times I just use them as like, I know that right here I want to do something, or I need a piece of B-roll. So I will just drop a marker there and know, okay, I'm going to come back and then like, I know that I need to add something here. So it's just like a little to-do list of things that you can do. You can also use it for like reviews. You can make to-do markers that you would then, let's convert this one to a to-do. And like we're going to do, we fix this terrible part, right? And then once we make that note, and then when we get around to fixing that terrible part, we hit completed. And now the marker changes colors, and we know that we've completed that to-do. Tip number 9, audio is everything, okay? Audio is king. Audio matters so much. It's often said that terrible audio will ruin fantastic video. You can have gorgeous footage, but if the audio stinks and it's hard to listen to, it drives a lot of people away. But you can get away with having subpar video, but really clean, crisp audio. And it makes all the difference. And you know, now we're in a time where captions are used more than ever. Having clean audio also helps you get much better captions. But making sure that your audio is crisp and clean. What I usually do with mine first is I will just go in and I try to set everything so that my peaks are at -3 dB, okay? And what I'm gonna do to do that usually is just click on the audio here. I usually just click on loudness and I see where that gets me. We're just gonna listen to this and see where the peaks are. I'm gonna look at my thing. All right, so hitting that, I'm already at -2 peaks is the highest. So I would probably leave this alone just like that for now. And then come back to it later and tweak it and see what, if I needed to. I'd come back, make some adjustments as I'm listening to it during the edit. And that might be all that I need to do. But that's just generally my approach. I hit the loudness button, I see where that is. If it needs to go up more after I've hit loudness, I would just come up here and maybe go, you know, oh, it needs 2 more dB, right? There we go. Now we're hitting our -3. And hitting the -3 is really just a padding to make sure we're not clipping. I don't typically like to use limiters unless I have to. So I try to just get my settings to be where they need to be. And our final tip, editing is all about flow, timing, and feel. All right, if you watch my main video on this, you will see that everything that I'm doing throughout is really, there's a lot of just making sure that the timing is right, that it feels right. There's no prescriptive approach to it. It's really just playing it back, saying, no, that needs to tweak a little bit, playing it back again, it needs a little bit more this way or that way, and playing it until it just feels right, until the flow is good. And that's what I really like about editing, is that flow that you get into. So those are my 10 tips for Final Cut Pro to help you get better at editing in Final Cut. If you want a deeper dive into all of these tips and techniques, check out my just released video where I go through an edit for one of the videos on my channel. It's a roughly 10 to 12 minute timeline that I'm assembling from scratch and walking through all of the different techniques from the very beginning, from starting in Finder with setting up a template, to importing the media, to creating my compound clips, to starting the edit and marking out where I want B-roll and putting B-roll in and tweaking it and working with some sound effects and creating some montages in the secondary storyline, working with gap clips, you know, all kinds of stuff that really show you how I edit and how Final Cut can be used as a super effective professional tool. And if you found this helpful, a like, a subscribe, those would be amazing. Thanks a lot for watching. Let me know how you use Final Cut. Let me know if you spotted anything that I am doing completely wrong or that I could be doing better. I love to improve my workflow and improve my techniques. So let me know in the comments below how you're using Final Cut, and if this was helpful to you. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you around on the next one.